Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
We set up an office. It's called the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We're saying that we've been struggling, government after government, to prosecute their own, basically. Attorney General and Minister of Justice look into the face of his own colleague they sit in cabinet with and say, I'm prosecuting you for whatever offense or crime you may have committed. So let's set up an independent ombudsman in the fight against corruption. But in the last few months, the relevance or the importance of that office has come into question. And I see two schools of thought. One says, let's do away with the special prosecutor. One says, let's do away with the office entirely. And they've all given their reasons why. Those who say, let's maintain the office, but maybe do something about the occupants of the office are saying that, yes, the bathwater may be bad, but why throw that away with the baby? Yesterday, Clara Kasati, who is a known private legal practitioner and a public speaker, wrote a very interesting piece about in defense of the maintenance of the office. And those who have also said either should be dissolved or should be scrapped or should be abolished or should be whatever. They've also given their reasons. In fact, Sam Okwadzator, the Venerable Sam Okwadzator, who is a former member of the Council of State, has given his own reasons why he thinks that it must be scrapped. But in all of this, the calls appears to have intensified because of this back and forth between himself and our own friend, lawyer Martin Webu, who has made some very scathing attacks. Well, I won't say scathing attacks, but he makes some allegations against the office. And he's now supposed to go to the office and prove, by giving what the office says, further and better particulars about whatever evidence he has against Kisija being acting as a person. Okay, and we saw what happened to Martin Webu and so on and so forth. I don't know what your thoughts are on this whole debate. And Uncle, I want to start with you, or has to be Eric. What's your thoughts on?
I want to start with Eric.
No, I mean, I'm flexible.
I'm flexible. I don't have a problem.
When it comes to you, anything for you, sir.
No, I don't have a problem at all. If Eric wants to start, I'll be quite comfortable
that's fine.
with that.
Obviously, that's fine. Let's go. Let's start with you, yes.
I think one of the most important things about this debate is that it is not a partisan issue. There are some from the New Patriotic Party who have said that they'll scrap that office. It's not performing.
Yeah.
And there are some from the National Democratic Congress who have also argued very strongly that the office should be scrapped. So on both sides of the argument, you find people from all political parties and so on. And for me, that is healthy. If we can approach this discussion, this debate, without our partisan lenses, perhaps the outcome will be better than what it was, 7, 8 years ago when we were establishing that office. I've heard Mr. Sam Okwadzator, somebody that I know very well, I've worked with before. I've heard Professor Michael Oquaye, and so on. I've heard them. And the question that I've asked myself is, how come that 7 years, 8 years ago, they had these positions, but they didn't express them? Because if they had expressed these positions at that time, perhaps we would not have established the Office of Special Prosecutor. We were lone voices. Those of us who kicked against the establishment of this office were lone voices. Now, I came from the point of view that, look, to be able to establish such an office, one, you need to amend the Constitution. You cannot establish this office without amending the Constitution. Because in the Constitution, the power to prosecute is vested only in the Attorney General. You understand? We were not listened to. Now, the other argument that we made then was that the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor was meant to cure two things. the perception of political bias in prosecutions. That because the Attorney General sits in cabinet and actually is appointed by the president and so on, people are likely to read politics into persecutions for corruption. And to cure that, you need to have an independent body and so on. The second perception was that if you have an Attorney General, because of his links with government and ruling party and so on, he's not likely to go after people in government or associated with government who are caught up in corruption.
Right.
The mere fact that the special prosecutor is also appointed by the president knocks out all these considerations. True. So these considerations are no longer important. It's appointed by the president the same way the Attorney General is appointed by the president.
Right.
You understand? So it knocks it out completely. So what is left? This humongous office is created, giving so much resources, and nothing works. Okay? And it's not because you have a bad special prosecutor. That's not the issue. For some of the things that he has to do, he still needs the permission and fiat of the Attorney General. For example, this case of extraditing Oquaye, he can't do it. He is not the Attorney General. He needs to rely on the Attorney General.
Because America won't deal with any office of special prosecutor.
Exactly.
They don't know them.
Exactly. So he's been given a position. He doesn't have enough powers, to do his work. Now, at any time, if he's prosecuting a case, and the Attorney General decides, it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen, right, that he wants to take over that prosecution, what is he going to do? How is he going to fight the Attorney General? Because the power to prosecute is vested in the Attorney General, not the Office of Special Prosecutor. The Office of Special Prosecutor, in fact, acts more or less on behalf of the Attorney General. Now, nobody listened to these arguments when they were made in the past, okay? Because the NPP had promised that if it came into office, if it won the election, it would do this. It wanted the appearance that it was fulfilling its electoral promises, and in any case, it had in mind a special prosecutor who it believed would go after NDC leaders and so on. That was all. That's how we created this huge contraption which has become the center of debate and controversy and so on. And to be honest with you, sometimes I really pity Kisejabi.
Why?
Because it's not about him. And yet he's been made the center of this controversy. I don't know whether you've read the piece which was written by Okwadzator.
Yes, I've seen that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant.
In fact, I didn't mention that in my opening remarks.
An office, you have a special prosecutor who is supposed to hold people in government accountable.
Yeah.
Now, who best would he be focusing on other than the finance minister who controls the government purse? And yet, for him to get resources to do his work, he has to go to the Minister of Finance. And what an incredible situation. This guy is supposed to be looking after the finances of the country to make sure that things are done properly and so on. The man in charge of the country's finances is the man who decides how much he should get to do his work. That's a huge problem. You understand?
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. You understand? If you look at the apparatus, this investigative apparatus, how sophisticated is it?
Yeah.
Compare what he has to the Criminal Investigations Department or the BNI and so on. Now, how much power does he have to compel the other investigative agencies to work with him on the basis of his dictates and so on? He doesn't have any such power. Yeah. So you've created a facade, and then put somebody in there, and you expect him to do wonders. He can't do wonders. The foundations on which the office itself stands are very, very weak foundations. You understand? So this really, I think, is a needless debate. From the beginning, the office should not have been established. It's a waste of everybody's time. Establishing that office was a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah.
But you know what happened? Why that office was established?
Okay.
At the time, the MPP or people in the MPP were anxious to prove that they were keeping their campaign promises. They wanted to demonstrate to the people of Ghana that they were serious about fighting corruption and so on. So those were the motivations. The NDC, on the other hand, and its leaders did not want to be seen to be obstructing anything linked with the fighting of corruption. You understand?
True.
So everybody, for the purpose of convenience, allowed this thing to pass through. And this is the monster we have created. You understand? We created a huge monster. This story about the special prosecutor, that there were 2 assassinations.
Yeah, their lives are in danger.
I knew this story way back.
Yeah.
You know, I knew this story way back, and perhaps I don't know whether I should say it now. Maybe it's not.
No, it's time. No, it's time. It's time.
No, it's not convenient.
Because the cat has already been let out of the bag.
Yeah, but it's not how I got to know the story.
Oh, you mean how you got to know?
How I got to know.
But at least you can tell us what you know.
Yes, because I got to know the story.
Okay.
And from what I got to know at that time, the incident occurred around Roman Ridge. Okay. One of the incidents at least occurred around Roman Ridge.
Okay.
And it was on the basis of that that the special prosecutor asked a friend of his to give me a bulletproof car. And I was very uncomfortable with that. You understand? Because if you are in that position, you should not be taking favors, receiving favors from even your friends and so on.
Because they can compromise you.
If your life actually depended on the friend who provided you a bulletproof car, then there's a problem.
That's a problem.
You know. But perhaps one day I'll be able to explain the circumstances under which I got to know about this allegation. And it's interesting. Okay? If indeed it is true that he had 2 assassination attempts, then there's a problem. Today I've seen some of the newspapers saying that it was a lie because he didn't report to the police and so on. I personally asked him why he didn't go to the police and said, for what purpose? He knew that nothing would come out of it, that he decided not to go to the police because he believed strongly that nothing would come out of it. You understand?
Well, it was the Interior Minister who was asking those questions, that there's no any records of the police, you know, with the police that such a thing had happened to them. He was wondering why.
Yeah. But when I got to know, I knew that there were no police records.
Why?
And my source told me that there were no police records because he didn't have sufficient confidence that if it was reported, it would be dealt with properly. And, Master, things happen to all of us and we let it go. Look, why? I've been abused on many occasions by state institutions and so on. I've decided to let it go. Does it mean that I wasn't abused?
That's true.
I've been abused, on many occasions. I mean, anyway.
Except that perhaps the claim would have been more credible if there was any record of it being launched with the...
There's no record of the abuses that I've suffered in my life.
Well, anyway, that's
no official record of the abuses that I've suffered in my life.
I agree with you.
Does that mean that I was
less credible? Right. I get that. I get that. Eric, I don't know where you stand on this. Because...
So, I mean, I think it was yesterday or so, there's a show on one of the other platforms where you had, I think it was Ace and Kuma and somebody else, I've forgotten who exactly. Yeah. And so I listened to...
You watched that show?
Yeah, and okay. It was an interesting take on the issues. And I think that by and large, a lot of people have spoken about the legal aspect, the legalese of it and all of that. And I remember the arguments prior to the setting up of the OSP where the initial conversation was, why don't we decouple the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice so that you'd have a minister responsible for justice, the judiciary, and have an Attorney General who is purely a government political person. And that argument, of course, was lost. I think that even in a couple of our manifestos, we spoke about it before the issue of the setting up a special prosecutor office. I mean, and in hindsight, when it comes to public policy, I mean, you always also have to give yourself an opportunity to do a post-evaluation of whatever it is that you envisaged. And I think that the principle and the idea behind the setting up of the Office of the Special Prosecutor would of course, to even a cursory observer, be one born out of good intent to ensure that we have an independent prosecutor who will be able to look at these things and be able to prosecute without fear or favor. However, I mean, my position on some of these things is that, I mean, it's almost as if that in this country, we allow the horses to bolt before, so even institutions are set up in such a way that the act should have happened, so that we will find somebody who will go and prosecute these persons. And that mindset for me sometimes is a bit problematic, because you have a situation where a vast majority of these issues that are dealt with by even the existing architecture prior to the OSP has to do with procurement and administrative issues and issues to do with decisions that have been taken by public office holders. And yet, we do not put that same amount of energy in putting together systems and mechanisms to forestall that, for that to even happen. I mean, we're talking about 2025, and in all the attempts that we've made to even ensure that we have all these e-procurement platforms and, I mean, use technology to be able to make it transparent and open, has basically been ignored, right? They're probably not even properly resourced. However, for some weird reason, we find wisdom in setting up these huge offices and putting these bureaucracies in place to deal with issues that, if we had taken a bit of time and even had a proper thinking through, would find solutions to. And to digress a bit, sometimes when I sit down and I watch the Public Accounts Committee and the issues that they're dealing with, even at the scale of district assemblies and everything. To be honest, I know that would be a bit controversial. I don't find those things as corruption, to be honest with you. I find this as administrative things that can be dealt with as a goal. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, somebody making a decision, paying without a voucher, and all of those things are things that, if the state is minded by this thing, we will not come back again in 2026 and go and sit at a Public Accounts Committee or have an Auditor General's report that the same issues follow through every single year. You know, and so, I mean, sometimes when I sit back and if you're not careful, you would say things that you're not supposed to say on platforms like that. How is it the case that the same things pertains? Since 1992, you can take the Auditor General's report, and it's administrative, it has issues to do with going through the right processes, procurement breaches, left, right, and center. Yet, in terms of finding solutions, the first thing that we will think about is, put another office that will deal with the issues when you can use conventional or contemporary practices in the private sector to deal with these issues. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even issues to do with an audit. You have an institution, every public sector institution has an internal auditor that sits there. Apart from the internal auditor, they have auditors, like external auditors that come and auditing the processes. So even the audit itself is not about finding or trying to penalize people, but it's about auditing the processes and the solutions and whatever. And so it's like a holistic overview of your business or your service or whatever it is that you are engaged in over a period. And then what the report does is to look at various loopholes within that particular thing and then give you timelines to fix it. Yeah. So in the case where these things are not fixed and these things keep occurring, then it means that we need to find like solutions, like lasting solutions, either administrative-wise, either processes-wise, making sure that there's a strict adherence. So for example, there is absolutely no excuse for anybody to even make payments outside of the government system to start with. So that is where you start from, right? How difficult is it to pre-vet suppliers to start with for either vehicles or consumables or, I mean, how difficult is that? Because the private sector organizations, and from my experience, do that. prior to the start of the year, they will come up with a list, a scope of things that is needed and say, okay, we are going to purchase this, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. This is the price range that we are going to pay. These are the quality of whatever it is that we are looking for. If you are a supplier, you have all the correct regulatory whatever, bring your samples, let's put a team together, let's make a determination. So that as a state, if we are dealing with issues to do with corruption, we are dealing with grand scale, you understand, grand scale issues. Otherwise, I mean, we will do this back and forth, we'll put a PAC committee, they will sit, they will take their allowances, people will go, there are all sorts of untold things that people have complained about, even that pertains and all of that. And we keep going on and on and on and on about these things. So for me, I believe that yes, the OSP is going through certain challenges. But the question is that, is it the first thing that you do to scrap an institution because you're facing certain challenges? Maybe with the amount of investment that has gone into that, we can have to probably do a proper introspection and say, okay, these are the things that we believe that we can support the OSP with to make it a bit more efficient, to find out there's proper synergies between the OSP and Attorney General to start with. And then also start thinking properly about, do we want to decouple this age-old debate about decoupling the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice to make the judiciary truly independent, so that we will not be coming back, because even in terms of the institutions, people have spoken about other institutions that as this and as SRAJ and all of those things that are all parts of the constitutional architecture that would have been able to deal with some of these challenges, so that we don't come back to these issues of like we are finding people guilty when the horses has already bolted. So then if you have people who, even with all the loophole, like the obstacles in place and all the checks and balances, still engage in acts of corruption and everything, then by all means, the state would actually be able to hone in on those people and prosecute them so that at least it becomes a deterrent. But it's like we have conversation around corruption, but the solutions are there, and then we allow these things to happen before, I mean, anything is done. And the OSP would face challenges, because in as much as you're there to do a job, the fundamental human rights of the people that are accused are also there. You understand? So, but in this country, sometimes the mere fact that an allegation is made actually means that the person is guilty. So the pressure is also on the OSP to prosecute. But if you're being governed by the tenets of a democracy, then the mere fact that allegation has been made should not lead to a prosecution. So if you're going to judge the OSP based on the number of prosecutions or the number of successful prosecutions that is being made, then maybe we are in the wrong place. We're probably looking at it from a different perspective. You can also argue that the mere presence of an OSP might even serve as a deterrent to to people. You understand what I'm saying? Right. But if you're saying that you haven't prosecuted anybody, and the mere fact that they haven't prosecuted anybody means that the office is not fit for purpose, it is a very lame argument, because at the end of the day, you have to find the person culpable beyond reasonable doubt. Right. And the onus is on the prosecutor to prove that. Do you understand? So,
but Eric, if you listen to the argument that's been canvassed by the Venerable Kwesi Pratt, and indeed it's not just him, there's many, many others who have made the same point, that to the extent that the office has very limited powers, we won't be able to reap the full benefits of setting up such an office until we're able to hive off the Attorney General's, hive the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice.
Yes, yeah.
In fact, Esan Kumadia, he's even recommending and suggesting, proposing that we merge the Office of the Special Prosecutor into the Department of Public Prosecution. and make this more powerful.
Because, I mean, and I agree.
So that you, the Minister of Justice,
yeah.
the Attorney General, the Attorney General, isn't it? Just advise the President and the state.
Yeah,
Don't bother yourselves
on
with
prosecutions and everything.
Yes,
right?
yeah, forget about those things and leave those ones to the Department of Public.
I mean, I agree with Uncle Kwesi on the matter of the constitutional challenge with the Attorney General. And again, even the matter of principle where, again, you have, so we've practiced this democracy for a while, we've had this constitution for a while. At the point when it was enacted, it made sense. There's nothing wrong in doing a proper evaluation and saying that if we really want to make this fair, want to...
And obviously, please check for us. I don't know whether it's an entrenched law or there's one that Parliament can just do away with.
Right. And then even if we say that, okay, based on all of these things, to even cure this whole mischief of the Attorney General can wake up and say that, oh, I'm filing a nullic prosecutor on a matter. And then in the same
the OSP
space,
can't do jack.
Yeah, you understand? In the same vein, right, would be pursuing another matter, right? So so we are trying to cure either political influence or all of these things. Yet the architecture itself
is problematic.
It's problematic. Yes. You understand? And so we need to have these hard conversations and say that it is problematic. Let's fix it. I'm not sure what the current recommendations are from even this new constitutional review conversation that are doing. But it's one of those things that I believe strongly that we can do. And then probably strengthen our internal audit systems, make them more independent. They should, if you have an internal auditor that reports to a CEO or a minister or whatever, that defeats the purpose. You understand what I'm saying? And so these are certain things that we can do so that we can focus the energies on finding people who are doing grand scale stuff rather than administrative things that we can fix.
Okay, all right. Let me just read these messages and we can go. This one here says that Moro, so what were these honorable men fighting about in Parliament? This is from Guy G in Canton. It says, what were these honorable men fighting about in Parliament yesterday? They do that for Ghanaians or their party people to say they are seriously working in Parliament. Can you imagine that? Excuse me. So Ghanaian voters voted for those to misbehave in Parliament. This is embarrassing to our democracy as a country. Guy G from Cantonment sends that message. Peter T from Shukura says, good morning, Moro. You're excellent and indefatigable broadcaster and a good replacement to your predecessor, Andy Abe. Keep it up, Moro. We should not allow activities that are not in conformity with our Ghanaian culture values. The incident that was carried out by a micro-minority in Parliament yesterday must be condemned by all patriotic Ghanaians. The fact that they claimed they had a case that could allow them to register their displeasure and discomfort towards certain directives or decisions made by the court or the Electoral Commission do not permit insensitive behavior. And the unproductive character we saw yesterday, it was a shameful act and should not be encouraged in our future partisan politics. Shame the leaders who condone and connive with this sad moment. Peter T from Shukura sent that message. Now, this one here says that, Ali Hureya, who is the NDC's Greater Accra Regional Zongo Caucus coordinator, says the NDC MPs in the House this evening were not enough to form decision-making quorum. Foolishly, some MPs remained in the chamber and gave the NDC MPs the decision-making quorum to approve all the motion schedules for today. If they had walked out, the Speaker would have adjourned sitting without any government business. You see how wise these guys are. Abdul Basit from UK says, good morning, my brother. I think it's time we call the minority for what they are. Their behavior yesterday was uncouth and dishonorable. Speaker Wagwin should start cracking the whip and ensure sanity is brought back to the nation's honorable house. The MPP was terrible as a government and shambolic in opposition. The alternative for us is very problematic. Alhaji Hamza from Pig Farm says, good morning, my brother. Let's stop beating about the bush and call a spade a spade. What happened yesterday in Parliament was so shameful to our democracy. And I'm sad and my heart bleeds for the nation. It's clear the minority had a serious agenda against business. And yesterday, they demonstrated it to the whole country. Anodon Prem made it clear on the floor of Parliament, and according to him, if the issue of Pandai is not resolved, government business will suffer. I was particularly sad to see that the estimates that Parliament wanted to pass for disbursement to be made includes Agenda 111, free SHS interchanges, and many others that they left behind, and this government wants to continue. In my humble opinion, this minority group does not deserve to be called honorable members of Parliament based on their behavior in their house. That's Alhaji Hamza from Pig Farm. Fred Agbenyo, who is MP for Guan, says that we're definitely not weak. There is so much we could have done, but to what end? Ghana first, hence this high level of tolerance and restraint in the face of this needless provocation. The problem really is not the few noisemakers in there, but the culture of superiority complex in their political DNA. Time will tell. That's Fred Agbenyo who sent me that message, MP for Guan. And Alfred Triddles, okay, I think I've read your message already. Oh, so Papa Bisu from Accra, who says that from Spintex Accra, says, hi bro, greetings to all of you. We thank Almighty God and that Uncle Kwesi has arrived safely to our dear nation. And on the micro minorities' misbehavior, they need to take note of how the military used some uncalled for reasons to overthrow a democratic government. Examples spread all over, mostly West African countries. We pray God should always remain a shining example, that Ghana should always remain a shining example as the best democracy in Africa or even the world. This kind of bad conduct in parliament, spreading falsehoods, sabotaging a democratic government, etc. If the West arose, they MPs will be seriously affected because constitution will be suspended, hence out of parliament and out of job. They better rethink. Papa Bisu from Spintex sends that message. And this one here from, okay, so Simon's managing editor of Accra Times, so seen your message and is duly noted. We'll sort that out. Anyway, I wanted us to look at this, the lithium deal, but unfortunately I'm being told that please find out whether we still have the 30 minutes or it's been cut short. Oh, we have just 10 minutes. Okay, we have just 10 minutes. I don't know how we're going to do this, Kwesi. Just 10 minutes to look at
it's possible. I don't think that the issues are that deep. But I just found the relevant provisions of the 1992 Constitution on the Attorney General. It's very short. It's Article 88, subsection 1. Okay. There shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and the principal legal officer to government. 2. The Attorney General shall discharge such other duties of a legal nature as may be referred or assigned to him by the President or imposed on him by the Constitution or any other law. 3. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences. All! He has to initiate it, according to the Constitution. All offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any other law. It's clear, very, very clear, you know. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the institution and conduct of all civil cases on behalf of the state, and all civil proceedings against the state shall be instituted against the Attorney General as defendant. The Attorney General shall have audience in all courts in Ghana. Very, very clear.
Yeah.
You understand? It's very clear.
Okay, so I think it settles it.
Yes, but let's come back.
So let's come back to lithium. So the Daily Statesman today has a story in there. The Crusading Guide has a story in there. The publisher has a story on lithium.
So many.
So many of them, almost all of them. But perhaps let me just look at the...
Because we don't have enough time.
Yes, just a paragraph.
It's a very simple matter.
Yes, let me just look at a paragraph of this and then you can come, because you'll always encourage me to at least read the story before you. But APL raises red flags over a potential $630 million loss in lithium deal. The story is here. And they were told that the Africa Policy Lens, APL, has cautioned that Ghana stands to lose between $210 million and $630 million if the government proceeds with this proposed reduction of the royalty rate for the Barari DV Ghana Limited lithium agreement from 10% to 5%. The erstwhile Akufo-Addo government, after securing cabinet approval to review royalties for lithium and associated minerals, negotiated an upward revision to 10%, giving Ghana an additional 5% royalty above the standard rate in the mining sector. However, the new Mahama administration, despite having criticized the earlier arrangement as inadequate, has now proposed halving the agreed 10% rates, sparking widespread backlash from policy analysis and civil society groups. Now, in the statement analyzing the controversy, APL said it was surprised that the government appeared prepared to forego a mutually agreed position that significantly benefits Ghana. Okwesi, your brief thoughts.
You see, if you read the newspapers and watch the media,
right,
you get the impression that Ghana has lost. Ghana has lost a whooping $630 million. It's not true. We haven't lost anything.
True.
Now, if you follow the media, you also get the impression that Ghana has changed the existing agreement. No agreement has been changed.
Right.
Okay? So, this is just fluff. Now, listen, I'm reading this from this newspaper, The Custodian, today. The first paragraph. It says, the Policy Research and Analysis Organization, Africa Policy Lens, has warned of a huge financial loss of up to $630 million to the state should the National Democratic Congress government reduce agreed royalty rate of lithium, of the lithium deal between Barry DV Ghana and the Ghana.
Barari DV.
Barari
DV,
of Ghana and Ghana.
It's actually how do you call it? It's actually how do you call it? The parent company is Atlantic Lithium.
No problem.
Yes.
So clearly, the agreement has not been changed.
Yeah.
The agreement has not been changed. No loss has occurred. You understand? What has happened is that there's a proposed legislation which will set the minimum threshold at 5%. It doesn't mean that the old agreement is going to be changed.
Right.
It's just going to set a minimum threshold of 5%.
True.
Now, listen to this paragraph, which is also very, very interesting. It says, assuming lithium concentrate prices remain within the range of $1,000 to $3,000 over the projected 12-year mine life, with annual production of 350,000 tons, Ghana would forfeit between 210 million and 630 million if royalties were reduced from 10 to 5%. What has this been? All kinds of assumptions. Assuming the current prices are maintained. Assuming. And if we even assume the current prices are maintained, the range is between 210 million to 630 million. Look at the wide range. Propaganda. Pure classical propaganda. You understand? And in any case, we are also told by the same analysis that the prices of lithium in the world market has been dropping. You understand? And we are told by the same analysis that it could drop by even up to 30% and so on. So please, let's deal with reality and stop this speculation which doesn't answer any question and just throws more confusion into the public domain.
Okay, Eric.
The agreement has not been changed. The royalty level has not been changed. This is about speculation based on certain price indicators. That's all. Abba.
Eric.
I think that, like Kwesi said, the issue has been the proposed legislation where the industry players and the CSOs are up in arms about the fact that even with the existing 10% royalties, where we all know what happened where there was major opposition, and that if there's a proposed legislation that now actually brings it to 5%, then that actually is actually inconsistent with that particular thing. I took my time to do a bit of research. I mean, and sometimes, I mean, it's like, and I think that I'm taking it from the Kwesi's playbook. This thing's about getting an international entity to come in and invest $30 million. I mean, that's all that you require. $30 million to now give you, even if it's 10% royalties or whatever, and we cannot find funding sources locally and be innovative in terms of taking advantage of some of these things. I mean, still beats my imagination.
Okay.
I was listening to Dr. Yeah, exactly. You know, the $30 million to invest in that. You know, you see, and our priorities are misplaced. I'm not going to bash any public policy.
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal le Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.